Gaming Geek here with the year-end video for 2020. Last year I came out with 3 separate videos for my Game of the Year, my favorite 3D prints, and then the Kickstarters that I was looking forward to for the next year. But this year, due to COVID-19 and all of the restrictions, honestly, I haven't played enough games where I feel like I can give sort of my top Game of the Year. But instead we'll be wrapping all of those videos into one just because we've been so restricted. Before we get into that though, I do want to say that we have a couple more days before Bob the Beholder is going to be picking the Patreon supporters to receive the gratitude gift for the month. And for this month of December of 2020, the gratitude gift is a copy of the Super Fantasy Brawl Kickstarter edition, as well as Last Aurora, again Kickstarter edition, and another dragon from Archon Studios. So make sure you check out this video if you want to see what that is. So click on the link below to become a Patreon member if you want to get in on that. I am going to go ahead and start off just by sharing about some of the games that I have played. And again, I don't necessarily have a Game of the Year just because I feel like I haven't played any of the games enough times to really know that that is my Game of the Year. And then I'll touch base on some of my 3D printing projects. And then finally, a Kickstarter update of the ones that I'm looking forward to coming in 2021. So like I stated, I haven't played that many games, honestly, because of the COVID-19 social distance restrictions. And the games that really I played from this year are very few. So some of them are Star Breach. I started out at the beginning of the year before COVID hit, and I played a lot of Star Breach. And like I mentioned from a year ago, I was really looking forward to learning that system. And sure enough, I definitely believe that Star Breach is my Kill Team replacement as a rule set. And so I was playing a lot of that at the beginning of the year. And then when COVID hit, I haven't played it since. I do know that they have come out with a solo version of that, so make sure to check that out. I haven't personally played that, but it's awesome during this time that you're able to play that solo. Another game that I played a couple of times is Project Elite, and I have a whole series of videos that talks about how I printed up terrain for that game as well as quick painting tutorial, so again, check that out here. But I didn't play that game enough. The couple of times that I did play, I had a lot of fun. So that's one of the games that I'm looking forward to once things open up again, of playing with my gaming group, because I think it's a ton of fun, especially with having a lot of people to play that with. And then my Game of the Year from last year, which was Madara, is a campaign that we continue to play once a week, my Tuesday night gaming group, and we played that by using a webcam, and I was moving around all of the characters on the board via Zoom. And so if you want to see some of that video of how I created the 3D board, go ahead and click here. But we did finish that campaign right towards the end of November. And so this next year, we're going to be looking forward to doing another campaign. And then the other game that came in recently is Ultra Quest. Again, I have some videos showcasing me painting all of the miniatures as well as all of the terrain. And I think Ultra Quest is a great game to play solo along with Street Masters. So it was fortuitous that that game came during this time because I've been having fun playing that game solo. I don't normally play solo games, and so this is sort of new territory for me, but it's been enjoyable. I do prefer to play with other players, but in the meantime, when we're restricted like this, it's nice to have a good couple solo games that you can play by yourself. Now, my Friday night game group, which is my normal game group, we meet every other Friday, and we have managed to pretty much play through COVID-19 by going online. So other than using a webcam to use a physical board, which I did with Madara, with my Friday night group, we have been playing on Board Game Arena. And so as my first experience, I think that interface is awesome because better than Tabletop Simulator, it actually restricts what you can do and your movement based off of the rules. So the rules are actually baked into the UI, and it makes it super convenient to where you don't have to keep track of victory conditions, you aren't able to do illegal moves. So that makes that interface a lot better than I think Tabletop Simulator. We were able to play a lot of games that we've always heard about and wanted to play, but none of us owned them. And most of them are actually Euro games because for the most part, I own primarily Ameritrash games that have a lot of miniatures. It was actually a lot of fun to be able to play some of these games that I've been wanting to play. Seasons is on there, which is a dice management game. I got to play Kingdom Builder for the first time. I played Rallyman GT, played Terra Mystica, and a couple of other games. So that's been sort of a fun way for us to be able to play some games, and especially try games that none of us were interested necessarily in buying, but have heard about and wanted to try them. And one of the things that I really like about Board Game Arena, and this is a first for me, is playing turn-based. And so what I mean by that is setting up a game and starting a game where we will receive an email alert when it says it's our turn, and so we can take however much time we want to play our turn, and then it goes over to the next player. So I've never played that way before, but there are a couple of games that I found for this to actually be the primary way that I would prefer to play. So a lot of the Euro games that might incite analysis paralysis, I think sort of the turn-based way to play is the way to play these games, because otherwise, if we were to play it real time, I think analysis paralysis would either make me super slow or other players really slow. So when you have this ability to be able to evaluate every turn that you make and take as much time as you want rather than feeling bad that you're taking so much time, this is a perfect way to do it. So make sure you go check out Board Game Arena if you're interested in finding out more of those games. So here's a list of games that I prefer to actually play through Board Game Arena rather than a physical board, because we can play turn-based, and that is Rallyman GT, which is a racing game where you're managing your dice. That's a great game to play by turns. I think Terra Mystica, I would never want to play that game in real time, just because there is so much to think about each turn. Even I, who am a relatively quick player, found myself spending a lot of time trying to analyze and figure out what's the optimal move here with each turn and how to spend my resources. Now there's a bunch of other games that are real time. For example, I would never play Project Elite sort of turn-based. That defeats the whole purpose of the time being a key component in the game mechanics. But obviously in some of these other games where you do have a lot of analysis paralysis, this is a perfect medium to do that. If I were to pick sort of a game of the year for me, it would be Gloomhaven, the Steam version of it. Last year's video, I said I was really looking forward to playing a campaign of Gloomhaven for 2020. Again, because of COVID-19, was never able to do that. And then I tried with my son with the Jaws of the Lion set, just because it's an easier introduction, but he never really ended up liking it. But some of us started playing the Steam version of Gloomhaven, and I think that is an excellent interpretation of the board game onto a really cool interface. Now, it's still in beta version, and they haven't put in the whole campaign from the board game, but I feel like there's a pretty good storyline right now, and once they come out with a full set, I think it's going to be awesome. And we start playing as well when it could be multiplayer, and we're working together in a guild. And I actually prefer the interface on Steam rather than on the board. And in fact, as we've been playing, we've sort of learned some of the rules that we were playing wrong on the board game version by playing it through Steam. So I'm really looking forward to Gloomhaven being fully programmed and the campaign being incorporated, but we've been having fun playing that, and that's probably the game that I've played the most is Gloomhaven Online, just because our Friday night group, after playing all these Euro games, we've been playing a number of Fridays just doing Gloomhaven. So that's been a lot of fun. So if I were to have a game of the year, I think it would be that. But again, I'm hesitant to do that because I've played so few games that I feel like this year really doesn't qualify in terms of me really giving an endorsement on a game that I've played many, many times. Next category that I want to talk about is 3D prints. Because I haven't been gaming as much, and because I've been doing more hobbying, I was able to finally do a lot of the projects that were sort of in the pipeline but required a lot of time. And I would say my favorite 3D print of this year is actually from Dragon's Rest, and it was really close between the Fantasy Dungeon set for Hero Quest, as well as all other dungeon crawls, and the Space Hulk HVAC set. And between the two, I'm going to side with the Space Hulk set just because that's been a dream of mine for over 10 years for me to build a 3D Space Hulk board. I was finally able to do it. It was a 2-month project, and I probably never would have put in that much time if I was regularly gaming. So this is a silver lining with all of the bad things that happened this past year in 2020 with COVID-19, was I was able to finally complete an entire HVAC set from Dragon's Rest. The quality is amazing. If you haven't seen those videos, make sure you check those out here. And then a close second, like I mentioned before, was I was able to create a Hero Quest board as well as a dungeon set that replaced all of my previous 3D printed dungeons. And again, that is from Dragon's Rest. And again, a bunch of videos that I made regarding those. So make sure you check those out here. But aside from that, there was a ton of other terrain that I was able to print up. It was really helpful to have a second 3D printer with my Ender 5. That doubled the output that I was able to print all of these files. And so this past year, we had a number of prints from Warlayer, from RM Printable Terrain, and Starcrawler for Zombicide Invasion, Wonder Worlds, and finally I purchased a laser. And for the most part, I haven't done any terrain yet, but have used it to make inserts and to make trays for miniatures, more practical things rather than actual gaming accessories. But hopefully in 2021, I will branch out a little bit more with trying to make some terrain with my laser. So 2020 was actually really productive in regards to printing out things on my 3D printer, making a lot of terrain. So I feel ready for a lot of the games once we are back together again. And then regarding Kickstarter fulfillments that I'm looking forward to in 2021, you can just go back to my previous video from a year ago where I share about the Kickstarters I was looking forward to for this year in 2020, because half of those have yet not fulfilled. All of them got pushed into 2021. Games like Street Fighter, Tanari's Adventures, Chronicles of Drunagor, Destinies, Storm Sunder, Oathsworn, and also Aeon Trespass Odyssey. So all of those projects that I mentioned from my video from a year ago, you can just go back and watch that again, link up here. And pretty much most of those are still now going to be delivering into 2021. And because a lot of those are delivering in the first half of the year, they're all bunched up together, and that's why I've mentioned in some of my previous videos that I'm on this journey of painting up 200 miniatures a month for 7 months while all of those games are delivering. And so that's why I was able to paint up all of my Shadows of Brimstone miniatures, all of my Ultra Quest miniatures. I'm going to be painting up my Otherfields miniatures these next week and a half. And then my Tanari's Adventures, the core set coming in hopefully in January. And so that's another couple hundred miniatures that I'm going to be painting. So all of these dungeon crawlers are going to be coming in this next month, these next 7 months or so in 2021. And also Descent is supposed to come in possibly around the April timeline. Make sure you subscribe to my video because most likely Descent will be the GGGG for that month. But tons of dungeon crawlers. And honestly, that's my favorite genre of games is dungeon crawlers. And so I'm excited. I think 2021 will be a redeeming year for us in terms of gaming and especially with dungeon crawlers. So I know that there was a lot of bad things that happened this past year, disappointing things because of the COVID-19 restrictions, and especially to those of you who might have lost loved ones or are suffering just long-term effects from COVID-19. My heart goes out to you. And our hope is that 2021 will be a better year for gaming, that we'll be able to go back to all of our conventions, that we'll be able to sit down at the table once again to play our favorite games. But in the meantime, Happy New Year, and I'm looking forward to spending it with you in 2021.